by EVGA.
The EVGA GeForce GTX 680 has arrived, and with it are a ton of new features and a brand new way to overclock. So for the 680 we have developed a new precision. It's called EVGA Precision X, and here it is. So to show you exactly how the card works and how you overclock, let's go ahead and start a 3D application. I'm going to start Heaven Benchmark and run in windowed mode so we can see exactly what is going on. So while this is loading, let's talk a little bit about the GTX 680 GPU frequency. The frequency is completely dynamic, meaning that it may be a little bit higher or a little bit lower than the rated specification depending on the application. So you can see as soon as the benchmark started, my GPU frequency is at 1110 MHz. You may notice that there are two main frequencies that are advertised, a base clock and a boost clock. The base clock is the minimum frequency that any 3D application will run. Think of really intense applications like a 3D stress test. You may see it run at the base clock. However, most applications will run at or above the boost clock. This is all done dynamically and automatically, and you can see that in this application, my GPU clock is able to increase over boost. So before we get to overclocking, let's talk about another cool feature of the GeForce GTX 680. What we have in Precision is a new feature called Frame Rate Target. And essentially what this does is set a frame rate cap at any specified level. So I went ahead and set a 30 frames per second frame rate target, and I need to restart my app after I do that. And you'll notice that once I do this, okay, the application is now running, and now I'm at 30 frames per second. That's correct, because I set it to 30 frames per second. But you'll also notice my GPU clock is 1005 MHz. That is because in order to meet 30 frames per second, in this particular scene, I only need that core clock. So this, and you see it drop lower there, this helps save power, and this is really beneficial for older applications which don't need excessive frame rates. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to some overclocking. So I'm going to start my Heaven benchmark, and you'll notice that I enabled the on-screen display feature. This gives me real-time GPU vitals right in the upper left-hand corner of my screen. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do when overclocking is increase my power target. So this essentially gives me more power headroom to play with. So the next thing I need to do is set a GPU clock offset. With the GTX 680, all overclocking must be done with clock offsets. There is no more absolute values. So if I set a clock offset of plus 100 MHz, that means I'm running 100 MHz over whatever I would be running if I wasn't overclocking. And on the 680, the memory overclocks quite nice, so I went ahead and set a plus 500 MHz offset for the memory. So now my memory is running at 3500 MHz. Alright, so let's go ahead and start to inch this up. Let's try 105 MHz offset. And let's go ahead and try 115 MHz offset. So you can see every time that I increase my offset, it is represented on the graph. And also, keep an eye on the power target. You'll see that it went up to 101% there. That's really where the 115% power target that I set previously can really help you. So let's try 125. So you can see that overclocking the 680 is quite simple. It's a little bit different than previous graphics cards, but it's not too difficult, and the card overclocks nicely. So there you have it, overclocking the EVGA GeForce GTX 680 using EVGA Precision X. I'm going to go ahead and hit the default button here. You'll see everything will jump down. My power usage went down, my GPU clock offset went down, my memory clock went back to default. Another cool feature on EVGA Precision X is an integrated test function. If you hit that test button there, OC Scanner X will automatically load if it's installed and start a stress test. EVGA Precision X also includes an adjust voltage feature. Now this feature doesn't do much for the 680 because the card is completely dynamic. The voltages increase as your core clock increases, so setting a manual voltage doesn't help you too much and actually may hinder performance because you're increasing the power and you're increasing the heat. Thanks again for watching. There is a lot more features to EVGA Precision X than just what we covered here. So to learn more, I recommend you check out the EVGA website at www.evga.com/precision.